Hi everybody, this is Katie. Welcome to Chapter 5 Code with Me. This is the repetition structures loops that we're going to do. Now I'm going to do this code with me a little different. So we got all this stuff that we're reading. We watched the lecture video. You read the chapter, maybe done the quiz. And there's the code with me. I'm making the video now so you'll see it right there. And then there's the assignment. And these notes down here are super important. Basic loop notes, we looked at that inside of the lecture video, and then these are some examples of how to do the loops in Small Basic. So I added this one that I did in the lecture notes on my modifications. And then here's the PDF again that shows you some examples. So I printed that off so I can refer to that to see how we do loops in Small Basic for this code with me. So we're doing this one, but what I want to do for this code with me, here's the submission file, so you want to download that. But what I want to do with this is look at the Chapter 5 assignment, and I want to start the assignment for the code with me. So we'll still have a video done that you're going to turn in for 50 points here, and then we have the finished assignment that you're going to do, which is going to be Chapter 5 assignment for the full 100 points, so an additional 100. So we got two documents we're going to look at. So I downloaded those files. And, well, let me show in my folder. Let me move these to where I store things for this class. So I downloaded them, my 116 programs. I'm going to make a new folder. Getting kind of, my file management's getting kind of out of hand. Chapter 5 assignments. So I got a couple things in this folder we're going to put. There we go. I'm also going to create a Small Basic file. And this is the Chapter 5 code with me. But I'm going to save it to that location. And I'm going to call this the test. It's what's your grade. So what's your grade program that we're creating. So I've saved it and now I'm ready to code. So what we're going to code is, with the code with me, we're going to start the homework, the Chapter 5 assignment. So you can kind of open up, well, let's see, we can kind of open up both of these files because you need to submit the code with me when we're done. I just want to get you the template set up for the actual assignment. So we got the two files, the assignment and then the code with me. And with the code with me, at the end, we're just going to paste our code here. The assignment that we're going to do is the Chapter 5 assignment, and I have this note before you begin this assignment. Chapter 5, make sure you do the Chapter 5 code with me, which we're doing right now. So we're going to walk through this program together. It's kind of long and it includes a lot of decisions and also loops. And we're going to tackle this chapter as a big whole assignment instead of little loops at a time. So that's why I want to code with you to start off with. So what this program does is we're going to write a program that figures out a current letter grade based on assignments submitted and graded. So for example, if you look at your grade sheet, and there's probably things that I need to grade, but say you submitted and graded, say there were 4 assignments that were submitted and graded. So what you want to do with this program is have the user enter in each one of those assignment grades and enter in how much they were worth, and then we're going to add that all up and figure out what their letter grade is so far in the class. So let's say, let's open up Excel real quick. And we have different inputs. But let's say that, so you're a student and you want to enter in assignment. We don't need to we don't need to store the names of the assignment, but say the first one was worth 100 points and you scored a 90, and then say the next assignment was a test and that was worth 200 points and you scored 175, and let's say that you had, what did I say, a 4? So then we had a quiz and that was worth 50 points and you got a 39, and then let's say there was another assignment worth 100 points and you got an 85. So there's 4 assignments that were done in the course. This is what the points total are and this is what you scored. So we have like a points worth type of variable, and then what you scored. So if you are calculating your own grades and you want to figure out what you got on this test, that's just equal to this divided by this. No, I did that backwards. That's just equal to this divided by this. So how many points you got divided by how many points it was worth, right? So you could do that and carry that process down for all of your grades. We could format these as percentages and see what it is. Now your program is also going to convert this to a letter grade. So on this assignment you got a 90%, and that comes out to an A-. This is a B+, this is a C+, and this is a B. Not a B+, just a B. Now your program is going to display this value as well based on that. So those are if statements that we're going to do ranges with. And then when we read through the program description, it doesn't want the individual grades. It doesn't want A- on assignment and B+ on test. It wants your overall grade. So it'll ask you how many tests or things do you have? And you have 4 things. And what did you get on this one? 90. What was it worth? 100. What did you get on this one? What was it worth? And so on. And then you're going to total up these points. So we can say we're going to accumulate to total those up. So to total, accumulation was in this chapter 5-4, I think, and it's all of these added together. So just add them all together. And then you need to accumulate your points that you got. So we add all of the points that you earned up. Add up all of the points that you earned and how many that was worth. And then what we want to actually display is not the individual grade. We want to display what your final grade in the class is. And that would be your total points that you scored divided by how many, that would be the total points that you earned divided by the total points that were possible. And that's an 86.44. Then your program will say, hey, that's a B. Okay? So that's the idea of the program. Now it could be different on anything, but just let's keep that in mind as we go and read the design document. So it should ask for certain things: the username, the course name, how many assignments were submitted so far, and we're going to error check. So it must be greater than 0. How many assignments were submitted so far? So that is, in this example, 4. We had 4 total. Back here. And based on how many assignments that they had, based on how many assignments there were, ask how many points each assignment was worth and how many points they scored on each assignment. Now notice these in parentheses. Must be greater than 0 and must be between the points. It must be between 0 or greater than 0 and the points that the assignment was worth. So those things in parentheses, those are error checking things that we want to include in our program. So that's our input that we want to do. And that was where we asked, you know, all of this. What was it worth? What'd you score? What was it worth? What'd you score? And we do that in a loop for as many assignments as there are. And then, bam, we're going to accumulate the total points earned and the total points possible and calculate the current percentage. Total points earned, total points possible, current percentage. That's what we calculate it. That's how we calculate it. Based on the current percentage, we're going to determine the letter grade. So we're using an if-else statement for that, a nested if then else, and then we're going to print a report at the end. Now, one of the things that we're setting you up for in here, and I don't think I have it noted, but it's going to be a requirement, is we must use modules. I'm writing that down on my sticky note right now. And at the end of this, code with me, we'll have our modules set up. So this design doesn't tell you how to code it per se. It tells you what things must be done in this assignment. Stage 2, this just goes down and tells you how total points can be calculated inside a loop that runs for as many assignments given. Total points equal the total points possible. So that's just telling you in English how to accumulate the total points possible. And then this is telling you, number 2 is telling you how to calculate total points earned. And then this tells you how to calculate the percentage. And then you have to figure out the letter grade. So here's the sliding scale or the grading scale for your ranges. I've given you some ideas on what your input variables are and what your calculated variables are. So we have a total of about 9 variables. That doesn't count any loop control variables that you have. And then the system design, this is kind of what should happen in the order what your program should the order that your program should happen in. So we initial out the variables at the beginning, we display a header, we prompt the user for their name and their course name, ask how many assignments were done, and then we have nested loops that do all our calculations. So those are the main steps and in the order that they happen. Now in stage 5 of this design process, I've given you sample output. So you have the student's name, you have the course name, you have how many assignments they submitted, and then you can see how many points was this assignment worth and what did you score. How many points was this worth and what did you score. How many points was this worth? Oop, there's some error checking where they put -9 and then we stop them and we say try again, you're wrong. So we take it in again. What did you score? So on. How many points did you score? Oh, there's another example using error code. And then at the end, so once your input process is correct, at the end you display this report card. So Kate Middleton for English 101 had 4 assignments. Possible points worth was 425 and she earned 377. That comes out to 88.71 or B+. So there's a lot of things going on in this program. Now I could let you do it on your own, but we're doing the code with me to get you started with a template and where your nested loops will be. Okay? So that is the assignment, and we're going to do the code with me. So we're over here. Put in your header information of what this is. This is assignment 5, but I want to see you go through the video. So, you know, put your name, put your basic header stuff, and then end that. Now let's think about the processes or the modules. So we can go back to Chapter 2 and we can break it down into input and then into calculations and into output. So let's say that we have that. Let's say that we want a we want to create a module called. We'll go down a little bit and we'll do our modules below. So we'll set them up and just do the details later. So we'll say we have one module called Get Student Info, and that sub. And this module will enter student name, course name, how many assignments that they did. Okay. Then we're going to have a module that will calculate their grade. So we'll create a module, sub, and we'll call it Celt Grade. And end that sub. Now this can determine, let's do a couple, 4 modules. Let's do this one, which will determine the total points and possible and the total points earned and the percent that they got overall. But because our nested if-else for determining the letter grade is going to be so long, this part right here, look at this is this one here, the letter grade, that's a nested if-else. So let's put that in a separate module because that nested if-else is so big. Let's not get it confused with the part that does these other calculations. So in the system analysis design, these are the first 3 calculations that we're going to put in our module called whatever one we just defined, Celt Grade, right here. And then for this part 4, we're going to put in a different module, and we'll call that one sub assign letter grade, and then end sub. Now you can, if you want to break it down differently, you can. If you want to do it in a different way, have at it. If you think you want to name your module something different, that's fine, as long as you follow the rules and it makes sense. Oh, I don't know why I've just messed with that. It shouldn't be there. Okay, so my last module, let's do one that's called Print Report, the report card. And we'll end that sub as well. So the assign letter grade module, this will give them a letter grade of A through F, and this last one will print the report card, so to speak. Okay, so we know what our modules are. Okay, now looking at the design document and how the sample program works, it prints a header. What's your grade? And then we'll start these processes. We'll start by calling these modules. So when you set up this kind of fake main module area, and some of you have actually been coding main and then calling main, that's something kind of fun we could do. Let me show you this, because a lot of you have been starting to do it on your own, and it's kind of good by making a sub main module and main. And then what you would put in here are all your module calls. This is kind of how we learned to do it and how you should have done it, but we don't have a main module. So if you do it like that, the first line of code that you need to have is a call to main. So just simply do that, and it starts the program. Kind of a cool way. So this is the call to start this to happen, and then what we're going to do in here are all of our calls. So we'll get student info, then we want to calc the grade, then we want to assign the letter grade, and then we want to print report. So we got our modules set up. Now that will all, let's save as we go. So we have main, we get this, we come down here, enter all that in. Come back, calc the grade, enter all that in. Come back, calc, come back, calc. Okay. Up here we want to declare our variables. Not declare, in most languages. We're going to initialize our variables. Now, remember what we learned about loops. It's important to, with your pre-test loops, like your while loop, you need to have a variable value. You need to have initialized your variable to a value to begin with. So now it's even more important that we initialize our variables. You can either set it to like yes at the beginning or a particular number if you want. But we know what our variables are going to do based on the design document that says we're going to have a variable that does all of these. So let me just pop this over to the side real quick. Pop that over. And I'm just going to create these variables real quick so we know. Now, there may be other variables your program is going to include later on. Definitely, it will include your count variables. Student name, that's a good variable, student name, and that's a string, so no data. That's how we would do that. Course name, no data. Num assignments, that's a number. Points worth for each individual assignment. And I have a note over here that just says, just use one generic. So if it says you have 4, if the student has 4 assignments, you don't want to have 4 different assignment value variables. For example, you don't want to store this in one variable. So this 90, you don't want to store that in one variable and this in another variable and this in another variable. You want to create one variable called like points earned, and it will store 90 or 100 or 39 or 85. And the way this will work is when we do our loop, we're going to kind of store it into our total variables. So there'll be this final variable called like total points earned that's going to accumulate it. So that would be equal to, like in this case, 90 plus 175 plus 39 plus 85. Whoop, that's not a percentage, but just a number. Actually, I just want it as text. It's probably too late. But anyway, it will add all of those numbers together. Just how I had it, like that. Excel. Anyway, and then here would be a variable points worth. This would, you could go points earned, points worth, like first assignment was worth 100 and the second one was worth 200. You don't want to have points worth 1 and points worth 2 and points worth 3, because if I run this program for me and I did 4 assignments, but you ran it for you and you did 20 assignments, you don't want to have 20 different variables. So we're just going to create one variable each for points worth, points earned, total points earned, and we'll call this total points possible. Points, actually let's call this points possible. That's a better variable name. This data we don't need to store, and these are accumulation variables here. Okay, so we're going back there, keeping up our number of assignments, points worth for each individual assignment, points worth, so we call that points possible. It's a number, and then the points they earned, and then our calculated variables are the total points the assignments were worth, so that was our accumulated variables. Total points possible, and total points earned. Now when I'm using words like accumulation, you should know what that means because you read the chapter, hopefully, or you've attended a lecture. Okay, so those are the variables. Whoops, I missed those last two. We need one for the percent, grade percent, we can call it, and then we need our letter grade, and that's going to be a string. Okay, so there's our variables. Now I'm not going to code the whole thing for you, but in the system design this is what you want to follow. So we've initialized our variables. We're going to display a header. Where would I do that? Probably right inside main. So those are your calls. Write some kind of code here to display a header. Like, welcome to the program that calculates grades. Something like what I do at the bottom here. Something like this. That's my header. It's kind of plain and basic, but when you're doing this requirement to display a header to the screen, I would do that right here in your main area. Okay. What if oh, that's good. We don't get errors yet. You can run yours. It's not going to do anything because we haven't coded anything yet, but there we go. So we got our variables, we've got our call to main, we got our sub main, and then we got our calls to all down here. Now you really don't need to do, whoops, I was going to leave that space there for you. You really don't need to do anything else in this main module here, but if you wanted to, you could write a loop in there to start your program again. We'll just leave it for now. Okay, so let's go to our lower modules. This module here, get student info. I don't need to write any loops in there. We're going to get these three things. Enter student name, enter the course name, and enter how many assignments. You don't want to enter in each individual assignment yet because we need to do some loops with that. So I don't need to code this module for you. You guys know how to do that. So that is part of this part right here. Prompt the user to enter in this, this, and this. Okay. So let me just paste that right there and comment it out real quick. So you're going to do this, that, and that inside of this module. Prompt the user to enter in their name and take it in. Prompt the user to enter in the class name and take that in. prompt the user to ask how many assignments and error code that. So what would that look like? So we have, remember in Small Basic, we have a for loop and we have a while loop. So let's use a while loop for it. So we're going to have our variable that we've set, initialized up here, called num assignments. It is equal to 0, so we'll just reset it equal to 0 there. And well, I'm not sure that we want to do that because we have it kind of global, but they're all global in here. Okay, let's take that out for a minute. So we have our variable called num assignments. So let's just ask our question. Text window dot write line or write how many assignments do you have to enter? And we're going to put this into num assignments equals text window dot read number. Okay. Oh, this is our prime read. That's what we'll do. Okay, so this is a prime read. So you still need to do this line here and this line here, but I'll show you how to do this first loop. So this is error code for that. How many assignments were submitted and add necessary error code. So we ask how many assignments were submitted. Now, what we want to prevent when we run this is if they enter in 0, we want them to fix that. And what does it specifically say? How many assignments were submitted must be greater than 0. Okay, so that's the only requirement right there. So I keep going back to the wrong thing. So we just want to error code that. So we have our prime read, and then we'll do a while loop. So we'll say, we'll take it in, and then we'll say while what? While num assignments has to be greater than 0. So let's just say greater than 0. What do we want to do? Wait, if it's greater than 0, it's okay. So let's do it this other way. How about while num assignments is less than or equal to 0? This would be bad input. Can't be 0 or less. Then what do we want to do? We want to take in that value again. So we want to say something like, sorry, or whatever, must be greater than 0. Try again. I'm going to make this a right line. And then, so I said text window.write line, sorry, must be greater than 0 assignments. Try again. Then let's do another text window.write and just ask the question again. How many assignments do you have to enter? Same question, and then we'll put that into num assignments equals text window dot read number and end while. Don't forget your end while, or you're going to have all types of problems. So that's our first loop in the program. This is a prime read here, and then we check it. While it's less than or equal to 0, do it again because it's wrong. And this will keep looping if they enter a negative value. When it's right, it'll break out and go on with the next part of the program. So you could do like, okay, entry is done, thank you. and whatever. So we can run it. Let's just look at the loop we have. We entered a 0. Sorry, must be greater than 0. Try again. -2. Wrong. 8. That's good, and it goes on. Okay? So that's all that you're going to put in this module, and we have the hard part done. Bam. Prompt the user to enter that, and that, you'll want to have that in there. So then we go back to main, and we call Celt Grade. So what goes on in Celt Grade? Well, let's look at that assignment. This is where we, based on how many assignments there were, ask how many points each assignment was worth, and ask what they scored on each assignment. Then we'll going to accumulate. So back to our Celt Grade module. So we go down to here where we're going to calculate the grade. So we already know the number of assignments. And what do we want to happen? These things. Nope. That was what we did before. I guess I didn't copy it. I really don't want to clutter up the program. It's this. Basically, we're asking how many assignments there were and how many points they earned on each assignment and what they scored on each assignment. So, determine the total points in the percent and ask that. And that's the next step. So that is, what are we going to do in this one? Based on that, program could do. Okay, so we're going to do, what are our modules again? Oh yeah, assign letter grade. Okay, we're going to calculate the thing. So all of this here, these things are going to go into that Celt Grade module. So that would be these. Based on how many assignments. You don't leave this in your program. This is just my notes, so I don't have to go back and forth. But these are the things that we're going to have. So first one, based on how many assignments, ask how many points each assignment was worth. Okay, we're going to use a for loop. And when we know exactly how many loops we have, we use a for loop. So I'm going to open up that PDF and look for an example of a for loop. I happen to have the printed papers in front of me. This is a for loop for I found a perfect example. Okay, for loops. Remember, these are called count controlled loops. So we know exactly how many times, so we want to use a for loop for that. And again, in Blackboard, when you're trying to figure out what loop to use for what, look at this right here. It's a good reference. For loop. Okay, let's look at this program. Validate age, blah, 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 da, da, da. Here's a for loop right there. N4. Okay, N4 is the keyword. Here's the start of a for loop. It loops through it for each individual thing. So for count. Count is just a counter variable. You can call it whatever you want. To the number of scores, or in this case, to the number of assignments. And then look at in this example. They have an error checking loop right here. We're going to do that too. So we're going to use a for loop here. For count, we'll just create it. You could call it counter, count, incrementer, whatever you want. So say for count, what's the syntax? Equals 1 to number of assignments. Put your code in here. For what's on line 49 and 50 where it says, what did you get and how many was it worth? Put code in here. And and 4. I'm going to add that right away because this for loop is going to get kind of long. I don't want to get lost in it. Okay, so our for loop. So if we have 4 assignments, it's going to go 4 loops, iterations. If it's going to go 10, if we have 10 assignments, it'll go 10 loops. Okay? Based on how many assignments, so that's this, how many points which was each assignment worth? So we want to ask that question right here. So ask how many points each assignment was worth, and that's in our variable called points possible. And add and put into points possible, the points possible variable. Right? And then it says error code must be greater than 0. Okay, we know how to error code that. So we're going to, you know, this line here is going to be write text window dot write. And then we'll do one to read that in. So that would look like points possible is equal to text window dot read number. And then it must be greater than 0. So error code. Okay. Now inside this for loop, we're going to go on to the next part where we ask, maybe, I hope I didn't skip over this error code that fast. The error code is going to be where it must be greater than 0. Well, look at, we just did an example right here. While number of assignments is less than or equal to 0, sorry, try again. So your loop down here could be the same thing. While points possible is less than or equal to 0, sorry, try again. So now we're going to ask how many points they earned, and we'll put that into the points earned variable and error code. So points earned, I'm just going to say enter, you know, make sure you input into the read number for points earned. Okay, and then error code, and this says, this error code here, let me cut this out. What is this error code? It must be greater than the points worth. It must be between the points worth and greater than or equal to 0. So that error code is going to be something like while points earned. So you'll take it in line 60 and 61. And while it's, let's say, less than 0, because you could get a 0, while it's less than 0 or points earned is greater than points possible, then error, you know, sorry, try again. So I'm going to just read this to myself and to you guys again. Error code, while points earned is less than 0 or points earned is greater than points possible. So if points possible is 100 and I got negative 0 or negative 10, that doesn't work. Or if I got 110 but points possible are only 100, that doesn't work. So no extra credit here. So points earned greater than points possible, that would be a problem. Equal to is okay because you could get 100 out of 100. So you don't want to say less or greater than or equal to. So that would be the error code for this part right here. Okay, so in this for loop we need to accumulate. right here. Line 50. Accumulation's always done the same way. So what do our variables name? Total something, total points possible, total points earned. Before we end this for loop, we're going to accumulate. So now we'll accumulate total points earned equals total points earned plus what you earned on that one, which was points earned. And total points possible equals total points possible plus points possible. That's how you accumulate. Total equals total plus whatever it is you're trying to add up. Based on the current percentage, your program will determine the associated letter grade. Oh, that's what we're going to do in our next, that we're not doing that in this one. We're going to do that in another module. Oh, calculate the percentage. Meant to take that one out. So the percentage. That's the last thing you need to do here. If you're following me, your percentage is, I already showed you an example at the beginning, so you can figure that out. Okay, that's all we want to do in there. Now, there's still a lot to do, but I'm going to stop there because, one, I've been talking too long, 45 minutes, and I think you can do the rest on your own. Assign letter grade. Now, when you go down here, your letter grade is going to be based on the percentage that you calculated. So that's not a loop. We have our loops in place already in that one. This is just going to be a nested if-else with ranges. So to start off, if percent, what's my variable called? Let me check that again. Grade percent. Now you can start this at the bottom or the top. Remember, we learned this with the last chapter. If grade percent is, I'll start at the bottom because it's then less, I think. Well, it doesn't matter. But we can say if it's less than or equal to, I got to look at my scale here. Right here. If it's less than or equal to 59, you fail. So we want to say that. If grade percent is less than or equal to 59, then what do we want to do? We want to assign letter grade to the value of F. Ooh. Else if grade percent is, let's look at the next one. Dang it. D minus between 60 and 62. So if grade is less than or equal to 62, and don't mess it up. We don't want to use or, because that's all. When we check ranges, we're looking within a range. So grade percent less than or equal to 62 or grade percent greater than or equal to 60, then letter grade is equal to a D minus. Else if blah blah blah, then letter grade is a D. Else if so and so. So you continue this on. Good to go. That's going to be a long one, so make sure you check those. And then report card. Display, name, course name, total points, possible. Wait. What do we want to display? Student name, course name, total points possible. Yeah, all this stuff. that will be in the report card. Lots of stuff there, but that is that step. Okay, so that's the assignment, and that's also the code with me. So now, this probably, because we don't have the if else finished, we'll probably get some syntax errors now. That's okay because we don't have this finished. So you can't really turn in sample output, but what you have so far is the outline for how to do the assignment. You have your variables, you have a main, which is kind of cool now. We added that in. We are getting our info. You want to finish this out. Here's our one example of a while loop that does error code. Then we have our Celt Grade, and we have a for loop. So here's our one example of a for loop. And inside of that, we have nested while loops. So in this for loop, this is going to be a while loop. Error code it with a while loop like you did in the previous module. Here, error code with a while loop. So you're going to have 2 while loops in there. The rest of it is normal calculations, and I think you're set to go. Should be good. So this I want to see. I want to see you have done this video. So copy this, save it because you're going to continue on with that. We're going to put that over into the code with me assignment. So remember, even though we're working on this assignment, you're going to turn this in under the code with me so far. And then when you're finished with everything, turn it in here. So we'll go over to the submission file for code with me. We don't need any sample output, so we'll just paste that code there and save that. Bing. And then go here and submit it. While you got that fresh in your mind, it's a good idea now to use the rest of your time that you're coding at this particular time. Finish up the assignment. Just keep working on it, finish it up, and then submit that right here. So I hope you understand loops. If you're confused, again, read the chapter, watch the lecture videos, read, and do some of these practice programs in the back of the book. If you ever want any solutions, just send me an email and I'll post them for you. So thank you. Have a great day.